The stress and the anxiety. I actually have a pit in my stomach right now. There was only one type of stress that I've ever felt in my life that came from that show. And I PTSD, like I can feel it. It was so difficult. And to manage that emotional stress was very, very hard.
On the podcast, The View Behind the Table, where former co-hosts are discussing their time on the talk show, Candace Cameron Bure says she has post-traumatic stress disorder from being on the panel for just over a year from 2015 to 2016.
When I felt like I was going into a show that I didn't have a clear opinion about, or it was something that I was legitimately nervous to talk about because I did have an opinion about it, but I knew I was going to be the only one at the table that had my opinion, I would just get sick to my stomach. And I hated that feeling. And then I'm like, I don't know who's going to come at me. I was also told so many times, if someone comes at you with a different opinion, you have to go back a second time. You can't, I want to share my opinion. I want to listen to yours, and then I want to back off. But I was always told by the producers, nope. If Joy says something, if Whoopi says something, if Raven says something, you got to go back another time. And I didn't like that part. So many mornings I would just be crying before the show.
Candace says when she was offered the co-host position, she was told the show was moving in a much lighter direction. But then Trump got into the presidential race, and that changed everything. So the show shifted back to a political tone, and most of the topics were just out of Candace's wheelhouse. So there were several times where Whoopi had to come into her dressing room and almost give her a pep talk before the show to help get her through.
Whoopi is who she is because on those big times, she knew I have a show to do and one of my hosts is having a breakdown. So she knew when to step in when it was her responsibility of being that leader on the show. And that's why she's as good as she is. I mean, for other reasons too. But so Whoopi came in a handful of times, but it was those really heavy times where she became Mama Bear and was like, I will help you and I'll carry you through, which gave me so much comfort. And I felt secure knowing she would protect me and not come at me.
So this is sad that Candace had that experience on the show, but there's a part of me that thinks Candace was a little naive going into the situation. Like, even if the show was going to go in a lighter direction, it of course wasn't just going to be topics about, her family or cooking or stuff like that. Like, I mean, there would have been topics that the show couldn't ignore, even if the show was doing a lighter direction. So I think she was a bit naive going into the situation. And yeah, I mean, there's just people that aren't cut out for it. I mean, I hosted a show where we talked about topics like The View talks about. And yeah, you have to be prepared with what you are going to say. And I know there were some people that weren't comfortable giving that kind of opinion. And it was a real shift for them to do that. And it was a real hurdle for them to get over. So yeah, it is a different wheelhouse that you have to be prepared for. And people are going to come at you. Obviously, the show that I hosted was a smaller scale than The View. But yeah, people are going to come at you and you have to be prepared for that. So I do sympathize with Candace that, it just wasn't what she signed up for. But there is an element that I think she should have been a little bit more prepared of what she was getting into. But yeah, what do you think of her saying she has PTSD from her time at The View? I want to hear your thoughts.